What if I told you that the way you spend your first hour every morning is quietly shaping your entire life? Your focus, your discipline, your confidence, your mindset, your productivity, your emotional state, and even the way you see yourself are all connected to how you start your day. And honestly, I genuinely think most people are not struggling because they're lazy or incapable. They are struggling because they are spending their mornings so chaotically. They wake up stressed. They already feel behind mentally, immediately grabbing their phone, starting to scroll, consuming everyone else's content and lifestyle before they even think about their own thoughts, and spend the rest of the day feeling overwhelmed, distracted, anxious, exhausted, and unmotivated. But the crazy thing is that the most people think it's normal. They think waking up tired, rushing through the life, and constantly feeling mentally drained is just called adulthood. But honestly, I don't think it's normal at all. I think it's just common, and there is a huge difference between those two things. I have realized that some of the most disciplined people are focused, calm, successful because they protect their mornings differently, because they understand something that most people ignore. Your morning is not just the beginning of your day, it's the foundation of your life. The way you start the day often determines the emotional direction of your next 16 hours. And over time, repeated morning becomes repeated identity. So every morning, if you start with chaos, distraction, and procrastination, eventually that becomes your whole identity and you see yourself like that. But if you start your morning becoming intentional, peaceful, disciplined, focused, slowly your identity changes in that direction too. And no, I'm not talking about that unrealistic wake up at 4 a.m. and become millionaire overnight. I honestly don't believe in forcing yourself into some fake perfect morning routines that make your life so miserable after 3 days. I want this video to feel realistic, sustainable, and actually helpful. So in this episode, I want to break down what I personally think a realistic top 1% morning routine looks like, and it will be step by step. And it will be based on psychology and mindset, energy and discipline, and all the science behind creating your life that genuinely feels good to wake up to. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Growth Chapter. If you're new here, this channel is all about self-improvement, mindset, psychology, routines, discipline, and intentionally rebuilding your life step by step. So if that sounds something you're interested in, make sure you subscribe to this channel and join the journey, because we are growing here together. And if this episode helps you even a little, don't forget to like the video and share it with the people who you think really needs to hear this, because honestly, you never know who might really need to hear this right now. One thing I used to believe is that successful people were just naturally more motivated than everyone else. But over time, I realized that that's not honestly true. I honestly think highly disciplined people simply reduce friction in their mornings. They create system that makes their good decisions easier, because the reality is your brain is extremely vulnerable during the first hour after you wake up. Your mind is still waking up. Your nervous system is still sensitive. And whatever you consume first usually sets the emotional tone for the rest of the day. That's why checking your phone immediately after waking up is honestly one of the worst habits for your mental clarity. Before your brain even gets a chance to wake up naturally, you already started consuming notifications, messages, social medias, bad news, people's opinion, comparison, stress, distraction, all those things. Your nervous system immediately goes into a reactive mode, and then people wonder why they feel anxious, mentally exhausted all day long. You didn't start your day intentionally. You started your day reactively, and reactive mornings eventually create reactive lives. And let's actually talk about what top 1% morning routine realistically looks like. Not perfection, not aesthetics, not pretending your life is so together 24/7. It's just habits that genuinely improves your mindset, focus, energy, and overall your quality of the life. First thing is honestly so simple, but it changed the way I looked at discipline completely. Just stop snoozing your alarm. I know that sounds so basic, but every time you hit that snooze button, you teach your brain to delay discomfort. You reinforce the habit of choosing comfort over commitment. And over time, that mindset slowly spreads into everything else. You delay workout, delay goals, delay difficult conversations, delay growth, delay becoming the version you want to become. And I genuinely think disciplined people are not different because they always feel motivated. They are different because they move before their emotion fully takes control of their life. One thing that helped me a lot is putting my phone or alarm away from my bed, like my dressing table or something, so I physically have to stand up. Because honestly, movement changes your state faster than motivation does. The second thing is avoiding your phone for the first like an hour or 30 minutes minimum after waking up. And honestly, this habit alone can change your life completely and change your mental clarity completely. Most people wake up and immediately overstimulates their brain with social medias, email, notification, comparison, some random videos on the social media. It's just constant noise before the day even starts. But highly focused people usually do the opposite. They create silence before stimulation. They give themselves space to wake up mentally before letting the world take the control. And honestly, I think protecting your attention is one of the biggest form of self-respect in today's world, because attention, your most valuable resources, okay? Where your attention goes, your life follows. The next thing is hydration. And I know this sounds so obvious and people underestimate how much dehydration affects their mood, energy, and focus. Your body and brain becomes dehydrated while you sleep. So before you grab your coffee, before you start scrolling, before you do anything else, drink some water. Even small habit like this matters more than people realize, because identity is built through repeated actions. Every intentional habit sends your brain a message about who you're actually becoming. The next step is sunlight and movement. And honestly, I think this is one of the most underrated habit for improving your energy and your mental health naturally. Getting sunlight in the morning helps regulate your circadian rhythm, improves alertness, supports dopamine production, and helps you wake up naturally and properly. And movement doesn't have to be so intense workout at 5 in the morning. It can simply be stretching, yoga, mobility, walking outside, and even just standing outside and having some fresh air for a few minutes. The goal is not a punishment, the goal is activation. I genuinely think many people feel mentally stuck because they spend most of their lives disconnected from their own bodies. They wake up and immediately see, scroll, consume, and mentally overstimulate themselves. But movement creates momentum, and momentum changes everything. Another thing I think is extremely important is protecting your mental state before the world starts demanding your attention. This is where habits like journaling, meditation, prayer, silence, or visualization, or just sitting alone with your own thoughts for a few minutes can genuinely change your mindset. And honestly, I don't think that exact habit matters here. All it matters is the intention behind it. The goal is simply to create clarity before chaos hits. Because if you don't intentionally direct your mind in the morning, the world will direct it for you. That's one reason why journaling can be so powerful, not because writing magically fixes your life, but because it slows your thoughts down enough for you to hear it. Most people distract themselves constantly. They never really sit with their own thoughts. But clarity changes life. Even asking yourself some simple questions like, what kind of person do I want to show up as today? Or what would make today so meaningful can completely shift your mindset and your energy. The next thing is planning your day before distraction starts controlling it. I think one reason so many people constantly feel so overwhelmed is because they wake up mentally scattered. They have no direction, no priorities, and no structure, so everything feels urgent. But highly productive people usually decide what matters before chaos begins. And honestly, you do not need some complicated productivity system. You just need clarity. One thing that helped me a lot is identifying the 3 most important tasks I have to finish today. Not 20 unrealistic tasks that makes me feel overwhelmed before I even start. Just 3 priorities that actually matters. Because when everything feels important, nothing is. Another huge habit is doing a deep work before dopamine. Most people spend the best hour of their day consuming instead of creating. They scroll instead of building. They react instead of focusing. But your brain is usually the sharpest during the morning, which is why highly successful people protect those hours so aggressively. This is the time to study, create content, work, or just work on your goals, build the skills, or do something meaningful that would actually move your life forward. I genuinely believe one of the biggest form of self-respect is giving your best energy to your own future. Rather than giving it away to some random distraction. But something really important I want to say is please do not completely change your life overnight. This is where so many people fail. They watch one self-improvement video and suddenly decide they are going to wake up at 5 in the morning, meditate for 30 minutes, journal, run 5 miles, or read 50 pages, cold shower, drink green juice, and completely change their life and become completely new person by Monday. And then after 3 days, they feel burnout, they quit everything because it feels so exhausting and unrealistic. Real transformation is much slower than people want, but also much more powerful than they realize. Sustainable growth happens through consistency, not intensity. Start small. Maybe your first step is simply waking up without snoozing, and then maybe you add some water, then 5-minute journaling, then a short walk. Small habits stacked constantly over time genuinely changes life. Honestly, I think the real reason why morning routine matters so much has nothing to do with productivity. I think it's identity. Every intentional morning becomes an evidence that you're becoming someone disciplined, calm, focused, self-aware, and reliable. you slowly rebuild the trust in yourself, and self-trust changes everything, because once you trust yourself, you you just stop constantly needing motivation to do things. You know you will follow through even when you don't feel like it. I also think it's important to understand that your nighttime routine affects your morning routine more than people realize. So, if you stay awake until 2 in the morning, endlessly scrolling and overstimulating your brain, your morning will naturally suffer too. A peaceful morning usually begins a night before. That's why sleeping early, reducing stimulation at night, and disconnecting from constant digital noise changes the quality of your morning completely. And I think this conversation is deeper than routine or productivity. It's really taking ownership of your own life. Because every morning you either reinforce the old version of yourself or practice becoming someone new. Every morning is a identity vote. You either vote for discipline or delay, focus or distraction, growth or comfort, intentionally or chaos. And eventually those small votes daily determines your entire life, and it's built in ordinary morning, in small decision nobody sees, in waking up when you said you would, in protecting your attention, in choosing growth repeatedly even when it feels uncomfortable. And that's what truly separates the top 1%. Not perfection, not talent, not luck. It's just consistency. And so, if you want to change your life, stop waiting for some huge moment breakthroughs. Start by fixing your morning, because when you control the beginning of your day, you slowly begin controlling the direction of your life too. And remember, this is not going to become perfect overnight, okay? You just need to become slightly more intentional than you were yesterday, one morning at a time. So if this video actually helped you even a little, make sure you give it a like and just join the journey by subscribing the channel, and I will see you in the next episode.